repetition is not just a repetition, it is also a moment of reconsideration. And April 14th is also the birthday of Baba Saheb, Dr.
Ambedkar.
Ambedkar. And Ambedkar is a very deep living presence with us. And the question he has posed about religion, about society, about caste is deeply significant. And so we thought that we would walk and meditate with Dr. Ambedkar's living presence, not just as a thinker gone by, not just as the architect of Indian Constitution, his living presence in terms of his very important statement, I think in 1936, he made that I have been born Hindu, but I do not want to die as Hindu.
I
And this is a very important challenge that he posed. And why did he say that I do not want to die as a Hindu? And so at the same time, when he left Hinduism and then he accepted Buddhism in 1956, he also had made a very important statement. And that why I do not want to die. I didn't want to die as Hindu. And today I have proved that I do not want to die as Hindu. And not only myself, many of my fellow beings are also living Hinduism. And he made it very clear, and he challenged everybody that they are not joining Hinduism, living Hinduism and embracing Hinduism because I am doing that. It is a decision for all of them. And he challenged that please, it is your own decision. And therefore, that is very important to remember that it was not just a hard thing, though there is a group dynamics everywhere. But Ambedkar's was not just an unreflective group dynamics. He wanted to challenge, bring the issue of reason and thinking about our religious practice. Therefore, this Ambedkar statement that I am born Hindu, but I do not want to die as Hindu, has been picked up, has been cultivated in very important way by Kancha Ilaya in his book, Why I Am Not a Hindu, in which Kancha Ilaya is challenging us that if Ambedkar says that I am born Hindu, but I do not want to die as Hindu, Professor Ilaya is saying that I want to say that I have not been born Hindu and why I am not a Hindu. And that is very important to engage with, what is his, critique and what he offers as the Sudra Kitty. And we have Professor Sarthik Bag with us, a deep scholar of both Ambedkar and Kancha Ilaya, to help us understand Kancha Ilaya's perspective on why I am not a Hindu. And there has been some engagement with that, including by Shashi Tharoor, I think 2 years ago. He wrote a book called Why I Am a Hindu, and in which he is saying that Hinduism, among other things, has an inbuilt capacity for reformation, and then he's referring to many processes of that, referring to Sri Narayana Guru and others. Along with that, one deep question is that whether I am born as a Hindu or not a Hindu, and I do not want to die as a Hindu, as Dr. Ambedkar is saying. And as Kancha Ilaya is saying that I have not been born as a Hindu, and Shashi Tharoor is saying that I am a Hindu. But all of this also challenges us to think about that as we are Hindus, born Hindus, or we might be born as Hindus, but our way of life may not necessarily involve any of the practices, or because there is a nominalism vis-a-vis our ascribed status. But any condition of ascription does not mean that we are able to really realize that many of the activities that are associated with that ascription. In sociology, there is an important distinction between ascription and achievement. We are born Hindus as we are born Muslims or Christians. And this is also the period of leading to Easter, after a few days. On April 18 is the Good Friday, and April 20 is the Easter, the Holy Easter. So any birth to any religion, it is a beginning, but it is only a beginning. But as we begin with our ascribed religious, situation in our journey of life, our life brings into many rivers of flows and cross currents. It is in that sense, as we are born Hindu or as we are born with the Hindu space, at the same time, we learn with other streams. And therefore, we need to also realize that as we are born into Hindu spaces, at the same time, we are much more. For example, our natural spaces. Many of our religious practices have a natural dimensions, rivers, sacred trees, the sacred groves, and all these things, though they are bounded, but at the same time, they also have a transcendent character, the dargahs So our Indian, religious, socio-religious reality is already plural to some extent. Therefore, even if we are born Hindus, we are not only Hindus. Secondly, some of our important practitioners of Hindu religion and spirituality, uh, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, in our modern world, he lived as simultaneously a Christian, a Muslim, as a Hindu. Swami Vivekananda, in his own social, religious, and spiritual journey, he was Hindu. At the same time, he was not only a Hindu. For example, he was deeply inspired by Lord Jesus Christ. And Romarola, in his biography of both Ramakrishna Paramahansa and Swami Vivekananda, helped us to understand the way Swami Vivekananda was a different kind of Hindu. Romarola makes this very deeply insightful statement that if Swami Vivekananda had not been, confronted by Ramakrishna Paramahansa, then he would have become another Dayananda Saraswati. And what a profound statement Romanulla is making, suggesting that the different unfoldment of Dayananda Saraswati and Swami Vivekananda. And Swami Vivekananda was open much more to other religions. Similarly, Gandhi also. Gandhi's journey with Hinduism. He began, for example, he was born in Kathiawar, and he was born into a socio-spiritual space that is called the Pranami. His mother was a follower of the Pranami pathway. And in Pranami pathway, it started during Akbar's time, many centuries ago. There in the spiritual worship, in the religious and spiritual space of the family and the community, there are scriptures of all religions. Among many influences of Gandhi, this pranami socio-religious and spiritual place, where in the family shrine there is scripture of all religion, is a very important influence. And Gandhi was not just religious in a conventional sense; he was religious. At the same time, he had critique of kind of religion which does not foster human dignity. Similarly, Sri Aurobindo was not just religious, and there is very little, Sri Aurobindo visited temples at an early age. For example, when he was in Baroda, he came into the Kali temple, near the Narmada River. And he also came to the temple, the Sarada temple in Sankara Hill, Adi Sankara Hill in Srinagar. After that, there are very few instances of Sri Aurobindo, entering temple as part of his religiosity. So he offered profound critique of religion. and his Hindu religion was not just Hindu; it was much. Similarly, Tagore's Hinduism was much more plural, much more integrally plural. It was not just a question of mixture, but it was an integral plurality that Tagore embodied. So we thought that it would be a important, way of working and meditating with the living question of Dr. Ambedkar, that why I am not a Hindu, Kancha Ilaya challenge why I am not a Hindu, including many of us who want to assert that we are Hindus, but whether I am not a Hindu or I am a Hindu, we are suffering from a kind of unreflective absolutism. And that also we need to interrogate. I am, if I am not a Hindu, then I am not a Hindu in an absolutist sense. And at the same time, if I'm a Hindu, I am also not a Hindu in an absolute sense. So let us, engage with this invitation, before Dr. Ambedkar's birthday and before Vishwa Sankranti. And so to help us in our journey, we have Professor Sarthik Bag, Professor Meera Chakrabarti, and Professor Asa Mukherjee. So Professor Sarthik Bag, as I have mentioned, teaches at Baba Saheb Ambedkar University in Lucknow, a political scientist and political theorist. Professor Meera Chakrabarti is our long-time co-traveler with Vishwaneedam, and she has been an important scholar, thinker, and taught in Bangalore University and joined university. And Professor Asa Mukherjee is also a respected friend and co-traveler with many of our dialogue seminars, and she taught at philosophy at Vishwabharati, and she also has written insightfully about philosophy and religion. So let us begin with Professor Sarthik Bag. Each one of you would have 20 minutes to begin with, please.
Yes, sure, sir.
Professor Sarthik Bag, please.
Um, am I audible, sir?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Uh, Thank you, everyone. My esteemed panelist and Professor Anant Giri. Uh, this is one opportunity for me to bring out the essence of a book, which happened to be the critique critique of Hindutva philosophy, culture, and political economy. Little bit about Kancha Illa, the author of the book Why I Am Not a Hindu, a prominent academician and also a Dalit Bahujan scholar and social activist. He obtained his higher education from Usmania University, and in the same university, he started his career as a faculty in the Department of Political Science. And for at a later stage, for some time, he was also associated with Center for Social Exclusion and Inclusive Policy at Manu, Hyderabad. Professor Kanchaila's writings are basically in the domain of Dalit Bahujan society. His writings basically raises the issues and concerns uh, with the community face in the contemporary time. And this book is one of the earliest attempt by Kancha Ila, and this book was published in the year 1996. And in this book, he is positioning himself as a voice of the Dalit Bahujan community. And in this book, he is using the word Dalit Bahujan. And he means, by Dalit Bahujan, he means those people and caste who form the exploited and suppressed majority. And he wants, in the book, he has built up the argument that he wants these Dalit Bahujan communities to organize themselves as a major force and help to establish an egalitarian in India. Actually, the immediate provocation of writing this book by Kancha Illa is something to do with the rise of Hindutva politics in early 90s. In early 90s, Hindutva politics was already visible at the national level, and the idea of Hindu, the word Hindu became very, very prominent in public places in civil society. He said that since the Hindu politics emerged at the national level, the Hindutva forces they propagated that everyone in India who is not a Muslim, who is not a Christian, who is not a Sikh is a Hindu. Okay. And Kanchaila say and react that suddenly I am being told that I am a Hindu. I am also being told that my parents, my relatives, my ancestors, they were Hindus, and the caste who used to assault me as someone who is a Dalit Bahujan member is now want me to declare that I am a Hindu. Otherwise, the caste I am belong to, Kanchaila says, the caste I belong to is socially castigated and my environment is vitiated. He said, I do not know how I can relate to the Hindu culture which I am not belong to at all. So, as a Dalit Bahujan, the question he is raising here is what we have to do with Hinduism, what Dalit Bahujan have to do with Hinduism or the Hindutva itself. He said, this is a background which I want to share here. He said that Dalit Bahujan community, Dalit Bahujan people have not heard the word Hindu, not as a word, nor as the name of the culture, nor as the name of the religion in our early childhood. Dalit Bahujan people in their childhood they never come across the word Hindu, neither as a name of a culture, neither as name of the religion. He further said that in the village there are many communities. There are Christians, there are Muslims, there are Brahmins, and there are Baniya. And among these category of people, the most different were Brahmins and Baniya. Some common aspects are found with Christians and Muslims, with Bahujan, but so far as Brahmins and Baniyas are concerned, they are far away from intermingling with Bahujan. Bahujan. But today, Kanchaila says, we are suddenly being told that we have a common religious and cultural relationship with Brahmin and Banya. This is not merely surprising, this is also shocking that Kanchaila mentioned in a book. In this particular book, Why I Am Not a Hindu, Kanchaila is using the lived experience as a theoretical framework to build up his argument to say why he is not a Hindu, or for that matter, why the Dalit Bahujans are not Hindu. So, based on his experience as someone who was born and brought up in a Dalit Bahujan community, someone who was a first generation learner, someone who was from a rural background, he has seen, Kanchaila says, that he has seen and experienced the socio-cultural, socio-economic and cultural differences that exist between Dalit Bahujan communities and upper caste. So, The differences that exist between Dalit Bahujan one hand and the upper caste on the other hand can be found, can be seen and observed, experienced at different stages of life. So the difference can be found in the different stages of our life. That is, in childhood, we experience the difference. In family life, we experience the difference. In power relation, we experience the difference between Dalit Bahujan and upper caste. And in the sphere of god and goddesses, also we find the difference. So, if difference are there, then how we can be called that we are Hindu? Kanchaila say that I am not Hindu because my parent did not know that they were Hindu, and our only identity in the village was caste identity. Our friend circles, relatives, playmates, all were of the same caste. We were not allowed to mingle with people of other caste, higher caste. We were not allowed to mix with people from other caste. We could only live with people from our own caste. We were not permitted to enter temple, though we were not unable to meet people. Though we were not able to meet people from other caste, particularly the upper caste. So he's pointing out this experience which he encountered or experienced in his childhood, because in childhood the prominent identity which he had was caste identity, and in the caste identity in the village, the people from other caste are not with you mingle with your similar caste. So, and our the family system of Bahujan also different, because in the family system it is different from the Hindus, caste Hindus. Dalit Bahujan family is democratic one. It is not patriarchal. The male females have equal rights. Women can fight back against their husband, and they have right to remarry after their husband death also. In contrast, the Hindu family is hierarchical. Upper caste families are hierarchical, and girls obey boys, children obey elders. That culture they have. The father can abuse the mother, but she cannot respond. She is not supposed to report. So there is no right to remarriage. A girl is taught to prepare food according to the taste of the taste of the male members of the family. So this is one difference. In family life also, there exists a difference between Dalit Bahujan and the upper caste. And Dalit Bahujan, he says the family is more democratic and there is equality. So while discussing the cultural values, in cultural sphere also, in religious sphere also, there is difference between Dalit Bahujan communities and upper caste in the country. The author raises some fundamental question here. If we are to choose which culture or values we should follow, should we choose the one that is human and democratic, or should we choose the one which is undemocratic, inhuman, and unequal? Okay. So he is bringing out the very visible differences that exist uh, among the Bahujan communities and upper caste on the other hand. He said that in the book, Kanchaila said that Hindu personality is made out of decadent spiritualism. The market, the idea of marriage, the idea of manhood, the idea of womanhood are structured in a very irrational form. Hindu values mold individuals who cannot tolerate the spiritual equality of others. This is again criticizing about the cultural aspect of Hinduism. He said, if Hinduism were to establish even within the spiritual domain, it would have been become a universal religion much before Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam. But the family structure that was established repel humans instead of attacking them. It established a market system that violated human beings. The Hindus were the only people who converted spirituality and promise of redemption in other world into their private property only of Brahmin, Vaishya, and Kshatriya. In his analysis, he put forward how the Brahminical patriarchy operates. It is done by conditioning of two mentality, one that control, manipulate, and structure, and another that can be controlled, manipulated, and structured. And it doesn't provide scope for questioning. It doesn't provide scope for questioning. It doesn't provide scope for debate and discourse. This authoritarian patriarchy is maintained in their house as well as in society. Throughout this period, they manipulated the Dalit mind and controlled them. So, how the caste Hindus they control the Dalit and their consciousness has been pointed out by Kanchayala in this manner. He said that when the children go to school in the village, they are introduced with the language and culture of upper caste. Okay, the children for the first time come across a language which is different from the language spoken at the home. The children are introduced to many figures, heroes and heroines, god and goddesses, goddesses, which are not heard of by the children of Bahujan community, Dalit Bahujan community. So that difference is there. In the villages, the Dalit Bahujan
So,
children, they know about
sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt. Just 1 minute. Can other participants please can mute their mic, please? Only we will listen to the speaker. I request all of you, please. Thank.
so when from Dalit Bahujan community, they attend the school in the village. Actually, those children are for the first time introduced with a language different from the language spoken at their home. It is again a difference, and they are taught about such heroes and heroines, such figures, such god and goddesses, which are not heard by the children coming from Dalit Bahujan community. For example, the children from Dalit Bahujan community, they know about the village deities. They know about the village god and goddesses. But in the school, the god or goddesses which they are familiar with, which they are taught at their homes, are never represented in the school, and they are taught with Hindu god and goddesses, and sometimes these god and goddesses are also violent. They are violent gods, they are regressive gods, and they are bloodthirsty gods. This is also a difference that he point out. Dalit Bahujan peoples are related with agriculture. They are productive forces. The instrument they use and the instrument they use and the knowledge they have about production, about the production process are much better, higher, superior to the one, superior to those people, which he said that they are not productive. They don't like production process. They don't like productive forces, and they have no value. They have no respect for labor. They have no respect for labor. This is also one thing Kanchayila had pointed out. Even today, Kanchayila says in the book, discrimination is evident in society because that is what the framework of Hinduism is. The author claims that no amount of scientific education, no amount of Western exposure can change Hindus into rational beings. Modern science doesn't make any impact on their region. Further, Kanchaila says upper caste have never lived eh, among the productive field. They have never experienced the life of the average working Indian. Hence, they do not understand the value of knowledge that emerges from work, that emerges from agriculture. The god also, the god which are worshipped by them are also different. As I told little earlier, the Hindus have different gods and Dalit Bahujan have different gods. He pointed out that violence has been Hinduism's principal mechanism of control, which is the reason why many Hindu gods were weapon wielders, in direct contrast to the god of other religions. The relationship between their god and and the god of oppressor and oppressed, the manipulator and manipulated. This is also one aspect in the sphere of how gods are different and the gods are violent and regressive. In the end of the book, Kanchaila says that what is the way out? What is the answer to the plight emanating from Hinduism or Hindutva forces? He says that Hinduization is not the answer. Hinduization is not the answer. Here he has actually cited about Mahatma Gandhi. He has cited about anti-colonial struggle in India. He said that anti-colonial struggle is basically a Brahminical nationalism, and it was in a way revived the hegemony of upper caste. So Hinduization will not help. Hinduization to Hinduization of Dalit Bahujan will not help to emancipate them. What is required at this stage is Dalitization. He prefers Dalitization to Hinduization. He says that if there are alternative, if there is a alternative world which is possible, then that seems to be in Dalitization. That is, he talks about Dalit Wadas, Dalit localities, where the life of the Dalit are are more democratic, more equal. They have concept of social, they have concept of collective consciousness, they have concept of sharing, equality between men and women, and then the concept of sharing. So this he said that more democratic than the practices made by upper caste in his book. That is why I am not a Hindu. So he said that uh, he's very hopeful. He's very hopeful that Dalit Bahujan people can become more consciousness. And his book, he said that it will help to generate collective consciousness among the people to establish an egalitarian India through the process of Dalitization. It is his prophecy, the book which he has written, and it has gone into several editions by now. It has emerged as one of a very eminent book, and it is clocked in the league of in the league of those books written by Ambedkar, Phule. Phule's Gulamgiri, Ambedkar, Why Annihilation of Caste, and this book by Kanchagila, Why I Am Not a Hindu. So this is one edition, an important edition of to the evolving literature, Dalit Bahujan literature, and this is very foremost. This has become a important text. We cannot call it is a autobiography or a book, but it is a text. It is a text which aims to expose the suffering, expose the problems inherent in the Hindutva forces, and the way out for Dalit Bahujan to come out of this uh, cycle. So this book is written by a person who has faced atrocities and discrimination by the upper caste. Therefore, the hostility he actually harbors towards Hindus is evident in his writing. The book demystified Hinduism by explicating its core belief and principle inherent in the Hindu reality. So I'm familiar with the book, and uh, when the book was published, somehow I was also in the group where the book was discussed first time in JNO. So since a long time, I am familiar with the book, and there are many things can be debated, we can question. So with this, I end my presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Bag. And in presenting Professor Kanchailaya's thought, you also have brought many important challenges. For example, the challenge of religion and violence. And that is also a very important challenge. Professor Asa Mukherjee, as a scholar of religion, would also, help us how scholars like Rene Girard, in his book, The Violence and the Sacred, why is that violence is so central to religious category? Therefore, this critique of religion, violence in Hindu religion that Kanchaila is pointing to, is also part of the wider challenge of relationship between religion and violence. And the challenge is whether it is a fated relationship or we can change that relationship, religion violence, to movement towards that is where the significance of Gandhi and other seekers come. Also, Kancha Ilaya has written another book called Post-Hindu India.
Yes.
And the challenge, therefore, is to read it in an affirmative way is that post-Hindu India is not just a call for post-Hindu India, but it is also a call for, it can be read as a call for a post-religious religiosity. And it is in that spirit, Gyani Bhatimo, a deep philosopher from Italy and Europe, and we have Professor Gianluigi Segalarba with us. Bhattimo also wrote a book in 2002. It's called After Christianity. So as we are talking about why we are not only Hindus, all these interlinked reflections are with us to move ahead together. So thank you, Professor Bag. Now I invite Professor Meera Chakrabarty, please. Professor Meera Chakrabarty.
Sorry. Thank you, Ananta and others. I had a question to Professor Bag, but I think we can ask later, isn't it?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. Okay, then my stand is a little different because in his introduction to book Riddles in Hinduism, an exposition to enlighten the masses, Ambedkar regretfully says, quote, "This book is an exposition of the beliefs propounded by what might be called Brahminic theology. It is intended for the common mass of Hindus who need to be awakened to know in what quagmire the Brahmins have placed them and to lead them onto the road of rational thinking," unquote. This was in 1987, published in 1987. Now, Shashi Tharoor, on the other hand, justifies that he is a Hindu based on the way of life which he has known from his experiences. Both the authors are using the term Hindu. Now, the major challenge confronting us in this context appears to be the term Hindu, which has come to signify a hazy understanding of both a way of life and a kind of religion. I have talked about it earlier on many other platforms, how this opacity exists. Now, therefore, it is necessary to go to the fundamentals to explore possible clarifications and critically arrive at an explanation that could eliminate the opacity, possibly, created by the existing interpretations. We know we have come across some scholars mention a mispronunciation of the term Sindhu as Hindu. You have a lot of historians who have placed this proposition. Well, if it is so, however, its persistent use of the term Hindu became accepted and made it the driving force that relates us to an identity that has never been questioned over time. In that case, could we probably surmise that the result of a mispronunciation of the term Hindu instead of Sindhu should be the reason of for an epistemic exploration, for an accurate theorization? Could we do that? Would we perhaps an interdisciplinary approach to this issue, which might facilitate a critical understanding of the problem? I have tried to see it from my discipline to an extent for philosophy and culture. In ancient India, the literature and other evidence show that an individual's identity in earlier times was anchored not around religion. Without a declared and systemic religious discipline, an individual could forge her identity, associating herself with other factors. If we quickly glance at the history of ancient India, for instance, we will see that the ancient Indus Valley civilization flourished in the northern region of the Indian subcontinent. The time was circa between 7000 to 600 BC, circa. This is also known as the Indus Saraswati civilization. Saraswati is mentioned in the early texts and the Vedas as flowing adjacent to the Indus River. And we also know that the river eventually, Saraswati River eventually dried up. Now it is believed that the Indus Valley civilization began to decline for unknown reasons. However, one theory is that it happened because the invasion of the light-skinned people known as the Aryans destabilized the dark-skinned people called by Western scholars as Dravidians, who were the original inhabitants of the river valley. The intention of explaining all this is related to the issue of identity. What religion did the people of the river valley civilization identify with? One might say that the objects found during the excavation of valley sites, the Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, etc., included god figurines, etc., which might render a religious connotation and point out that people were engaged in important religious activities. But in the absence of strong evidence, an important question is, what did the people of the valley civilization choose to identify themselves with? Granting that the Mohenjo-daro Harappa sites show skillfully planned cities, the division between the towns and the rural areas must have the divergent identities. The question remains as to what identity defines those people. Did they choose knowledge or skills or trade to such a level as to build an identity for the communities they belong to? We see much later, for instance, the East India Company got identified with trade, with business. Could this then make us think that the socio-cultural and political behavior, and not necessarily religion, was associated with a community or an individual's identity? This needs an elaborate debate because this dimension is quite pertinent even now. Even now in southern India, many people are identified by their father's name and the name of the village they come from. You have Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan. You have the village name and his father's name. Please note that neither Socrates, and as Ananta has already mentioned, Sri Ramakrishna Paramhansa, nor Guru Nanak, nor many of the others identify themselves with any religion. There are many more in this category. I have made it very brief, but I would like to have a discussion when you really listen. So finally, a writing project on this, Ananta, will be welcome if it is undertaken, would illuminate many factors that might demonstrate a very different picture, that it is not the religion always which define. And even when you say religion, I have also made it many times clear that religion and dharma do not go together. They are totally misunderstood. So unless our terminologies are distinct, as Socrates has said, that you have to define your terms. And unless the terminologies are distinct, taking a terminology which is misunderstood, like dharma, has been totally misunderstood. A religion which is totally misunderstood. I try to see in the texts, in the older texts, none of even the founder, the propounder of the schools of thought, they do not call themselves from the point of view, they do not identify themselves with point of view from the point of view of religion. They will say they belong to this school of thought. They're the Mimamsakas, say they are the Mimamsakas. They don't say we are the Hindu Mimamsakas. Or the Vishishtadvaitas do not say that we are Hindu Vishishtadvaitas. They say we are Vishishtadvaitas. So you have lot of them, and even later, as pointed out already, that people have not identified with religion, and therefore my fundamental question is that let us define the terms, and let us go to the exploration as to what has led to this kind of an understanding, which has perpetuated to this extent, as mentioned, that religious violence has occurred. Thank you. I am brief. Thank you. I've taken very less time, but doesn't matter. Thank you, Ananta.
Thank you, Professor Meera Chakrabarti. As we welcome Professor Asa Mukherjee, Professor Chakrabarty's pointer to religion and Dhamma is very important, and Ambedkar himself has written about it. And in a section called How Dhamma Differs from Religion, of course, Ambedkar uses Dhamma from the Buddhist path, Dharma and Dhamma, but they are kind of, they are ecologically related. They are not isolated from each other. And what Ambedkar writes, that religion, it is said, is personal, and one must keep it to oneself. One must not let it play its part in public life. Contrary to this, Dhamma is social. It is fundamentally and essentially so. Dhamma is righteousness, which means right relations between man and man. And of course, that means men, women, and nature also. I think one challenge before Ambedkar's critique of religion is that not only it is dominating human beings, but the human domination that happens in the name of religion today also has to involve a critique of domination of nature. So this
I will explain that later on. Yeah.
So I'm just making one or two linking comments.
Sure.
Just very quickly. And Ambedkar goes on to say, from this it is evident that one man, if he is alone, does not need Dhamma, because both religion and Dhamma has a kind of a social dimension in terms of ethics. And he goes on to say but when there are two men living in relation to each other, they must find a place for Dhamma, whether they like it or not, neither can escape it. So he's pointing to the whole ethical dimension. And then he goes on to say that in this context, there may be three options. In other words, society cannot do without Dharma. Society has to choose one of the three alternatives. Society may choose not to have any Dharma as an instrument of government, for Dharma is nothing if it is not an instrument of government. This means society chooses the road to anarchy. Secondly, society may choose the police, the dictatorship as an instrument of government. Thirdly, society may choose Dhamma plus the magistrate, where people fail to observe the Dharma. In anarchy and dictatorship, liberty is lost. Only in the third, liberty survives. Those who want liberty must therefore have Dhamma. In kind of the rigor of thinking that Professor Chakrabarty pleads for, and one can also read Ambedkar, some of his works along these lines. So with this, Professor Asa Mukherjee, please.
Thank you very much, Anantaji. And I'm really happy to be on this panel. But then, as Anantaji had requested, that it's going to be a very, very informal kind of discussion. So I just wanted to be very informal, and also sort of bringing the issues on the platform. Some of them are already said, but some of them might sort of help us in understanding. So basically, it's a way of understanding the issues which are related with the theme which we are discussing today. So just now, as Miradi had pointed out, that Hinduism is a term which is, I mean, also the word Hindu is a term which is really not very clear and has ambiguities and haziness inbuilt into the word itself. And I mean, how to understand and go to the fundamentals is one way of doing it. But I'm also trying to sort of look at the word Hinduism. And I was looking at, actually, I read some books about some 20 years back by David Lorenzen, and the book was called uh, what was it? Who Invented Hinduism? Yeah, that was the title. Who Invented Hinduism? And this book was published, I guess, sometime in early 90s. And then in reply to this book, there's another very well-known scholar, S.N. Balagangadhara. He published another book, The Heathen in His Blindness. The Heathen in His Blindness. So these two books actually generated a lot of debate during that time, and I was part of that debate. And I attended a number of conferences during that time. So actually, I was I was going back to my sort of all those days when I was reading all these books, and basically, I mean, it is argued in the first book by David Lorenzen that the word Hinduism is an invention, or it's a construction. It's a construction by the European scholars. And I mean, maybe you can have a look. I'm not going to go into the details. And then Balagangadhar, actually, he sort of argues in his book, The Heathen in His Blindness, and he talks about that if Hinduism did not exist, then what does caste studies stand for? Because we already had Ambedkar's contributions by that time. So these are very important books, and that these two books have really created a huge debate in the Western world during that time, especially in religion and Hinduism. So I just wanted to draw this attention that Hinduism is a kind of European construct. And I mean, as I guess most of us will agree that there was nothing called Hinduism, as Miradi has already pointed out, as Hinduism in our philosophical traditions, and they were all philosophical or spiritual or religious traditions. I mean, they were philosophy rather than religion in that sense. I have been working in this area for quite some time, so I'm not going into the details, but so I also subscribe to the view that these are all philosophies and not religions in the sense of the term of the religion, or the way it is used in the West. So now, having said that, the second point I would like to bring to on the floor is that that Hinduism actually is used by, in fact, these 2-3 books which we have already talked about, Why I'm Not a Hindu, Why I'm a Hindu, and in fact, both these books are written in a context. And I was looking back, and I found Gandhi actually was the first one who wrote Why I'm a Hindu. This was published, Why I'm a Hindu. This was published by Gandhi in, actually it was a lecture. It was published in one of his collections. I'll give you the reference. I guess it was in one of the letters which he used to publish. So, yeah, Young India, yeah, in 1927. Why I'm a Hindu. This was written by Gandhi in 1927, Young India. Now, with this context, I mean, if you look at why I'm not a Hindu, why I'm a Hindu by Shashi Tharoor, and why I'm not a Hindu by Kancha Ilya, about whom we have talked about quite in detail. So we have to see all these things with a background. And in fact, it's a very small kind of essay written by Gandhi, and it will be very interesting to read, but I'm not going to read right now. You can have a look at it. And in there also, I mean, Gandhi, in his liberal view. So what I was saying was that in all these three, four writings, which are classics in this area, or classical texts in this area, the word Hinduism is used in two different senses. One is a very restricted sense, which is exclusive, that Hindu and non-Hindus. So Hinduism, when we are using the word Hinduism, we are excluding those who are not Hindu. And the others, so this is exclusive sense. And the other sense is inclusive, that which is very wider and universalistic meaning of Hinduism, where we include every other religion. So Hinduism is not a religion in that sense, but it includes every other religion, about whom Anantaji has talked about in the beginning. So these are two different senses, and I suppose when we are asking ourselves, whether I'm a Hindu, and then actually I was wondering if there is any absolute sense of the question, if I'm a Hindu. Anantaji was asking. So for me, there's no absolute sense in that, because I mean, when I'm talking about my own experiences, my experiences are my experiences. Nobody has the right to challenge it. When Kancha Ilaya is talking about his own experiences, and he's arguing the way he's arguing, that these are my experiences, these are my first-hand experiences. Therefore, nobody can say that no, these are all false experiences. So I guess in that sense, I mean, there's no absolute, and I have my own experiences as well of being a Hindu. So Shashi Tharoor, for example, as a contrast, presents his own experiences as a very liberal bringing up of his family. So in the same way, I mean, like there could be very restrictive and patriarchal and undemocratic, Brahminical way of upbringing of a person, of a Hindu. On the other hand, there could also be a very, very liberal and democratic way of upbringing of a person. And therefore, I mean, these experiences, like Gandhi himself talks about his own experiences in his childhood, in his introduction of the Bhagavad Gita. He tells, how he never even read Gita, and it was actually the two British friends who insisted that no, we must read Gita. So then he starts reading it, and then he was ashamed that he never read that Gita, and he did not know Sanskrit, so he had to take help from other people to read them. So all these experiences are really personal experiences of the people, and when we are sharing, they have their own truths, they have their own validity, and therefore no other person has the right to question all those things. So, but then we must keep, when we are talking, we are discussing these things, we must keep them separate. That, okay, these are two different senses. One is restricted sense, and which is exclusive sense, and there could be a liberal sense, which is inclusive sense. Having said that, in fact, I mean, we find, I mean, all those names which Anantaji was presenting of Hindu kind of examples of modern examples of Hinduism, interpretation of Hinduism. And where we were talking about Vivekananda and Ramakrishna Paramhans, and Sri Aurobindo, Gandhi, Tagore, etc. These are all modern reformist Hindu kind of reformists, I would call them. Now, this is not for the first time that we are getting all these reformist attitudes or reformist kind of thinkers during the 19th and 20th century. But we also had these reformist movements, which maybe like medieval bhakti movements from 15th and 16th, 17th century. Uh, I mean, we can go back even to earlier. If you look at the South, I mean, South has a long tradition of reformation of Hinduism in that sense, or Brahminical traditions in that sense. People like Ramanuj, Kabir, Sant Tukaram, Surdas, Nanak, Chaitanya, Mira, Tulsidas, they all fall into this category where love and unity and devotion are taken as the prime values, and they reacted towards the religious conflicts and tried to establish harmony among the human beings and the common elements of humanity and human dignity they emphasized on, and the common truth among all the religions were also emphasized, such as Hinduism, Islam, and Sufism, the birth of Indian Sufism. I'm not talking about Sufism of the other Sufism, but of Iraq or Iran, but Sufism of India that took place, that actually was, that took shape and in the various forms of music, dance, songs, poems. These are all the proofs of syncretic culture of India, about whom Tagore has talked a lot. So now these are reformist kind of attempts within the medieval time. But during the colonial impact of the education and Christianity in India also, we had a lot of reformist attempts with regard to Hinduism around 18th century. Ramon Rai, Bankim Chandra, Gandhi, Tagore, and many others who tried to save Hinduism by reforming and reinterpreting the religious texts of Hinduism, like Gita, Mahabharata, Ramayana, and others. So, I mean, and also the Vedic texts. So, and the colonial impact of education and Christianity in India, along with the translation. Tagore was very much into the translating, the translation of the through the education program, translation of the various languages of the world into English and many other languages, so that a new understanding of the self and the other can be achieved. So for these people, a new understanding of the self and other, that was extremely important. And that could be done in various ways. One was love and devotion, unity, and this thing. But on the other hand, kind of education also played a very important role. That was through translation. And those who were practicing Hinduism in, for example, in Banaras, South India, West Bengal, Orissa, Gujarat, and other parts of the country, they all took part into it. So that also helped, and all these interpretations, various interpretations of being a Hindu, they were based on their experiences, but also they were based on their understanding. So in this sense, it's a very, very complex issue that, I mean, how do we answer this question? And who has the right to say that I'm only, why I'm not only a Hindu? Now, when I stands for the person who is writing or who is addressing the question. So why I'm not only a Hindu, this actually depends on the person I to answer. Now, if my upbringing and if my training has been in such a way that I'm only a Hindu, and then why I'm not only a Hindu, this question will not make any sense. If the it's a very, very restrictive upbringing. For example, I was brought up in a situation where the next door neighbor was a Muslim, and I was told not to even look at that house, forget about anything else. And these were professors. He was a professor for political science from Aligarh University, and they came only once in a year. So when they would come, they would, as a courtesy, they were a very civilized, a very educated family. I was hardly 8 or 9 years old when they visited my home. Um, I mean, like they were offered some sweets and tea, and I was, as a child, I was asked to get the cup or plate and the cutlery, which can be thrown after their use. And I didn't know why this was happening, because I mean, just because they happen to be Muslim, that cutlery cannot be used. So I was brought up in that tradition, and with that tradition, and also I will tell you another experience. When I was in class 6, perhaps, yeah, I think it was 6. I was 9 years old at that time. I passed my exam and I was stood first. And this was Professor Jaffrey, and his son was Hassan Jaffrey, who also passed his master's. And he asked, have you passed? I mean, actually, I was watering my garden and he was taking a walk in the evening. So that's how it. He was very tall, I was very small. We were just within the boundary wall, across the boundary, we were standing. And he asked me, did you pass your exam? I said, yeah, I was stood first. And he said, I asked him, and he said, yeah, I also stood first. So then I said, he said that, why don't you give me sweets? I said, no, you should give me sweets because, you are elder. So immediately he got me some egg pav jalebi, and he offered me. He said, here it is. And as a child, I was so happy that, somebody is sort of giving me sweets and fresh jalebis, right from the shop. And then I took that and I said, you have some. So he took some and then gave it to me. And I was jumping with joy, and I actually ran to my grandmother and I said, look, I got this, fresh jalebi. She asked me, where did you get it? And I told her that Hassan Bhai Sahab gave this. And she was just black and blue. She was so angry. I mean, like, literally, she was, she looked at me and, ordered me immediately, just go and throw it into the drain. I was crying. I had no other option. Straight away, I went and threw it in the drain. So these are my experiences. Now, that was the day when I decided that I'm going to have my food with every Muslim in my class. So I was brought up with this all strict regulations of so-called Brahminism, but I revolted, and I decided that I'm not going to be this kind of Hindu. And I just wanted to be, and after all, I got the job in Shantiniketan, and my life completely changed, and I became very free, and I sort of, with all Tagore's ideals, I became a very different Hindu. So I guess this is what I'm saying, that the personal experiences makes a lot of difference, and I think. But then education also makes a very important difference in the person. I mean, if I did not have the education, Tagore's education exposure, perhaps I would not have been what I am as a Hindu today. So these are very important issues which I really wanted to bring it on the floor. And if the time permits, I can talk a little bit about Tagore and Gandhi. But otherwise, I can only say that, Tagore, for example, Tagore's Hinduism is inclusive uh, and all faiths, emphasizing on its universal aspects from various Upanishads of spirituality. And he was absolutely against any kind of dogmatic understanding of Hinduism. And I mean, he always believed that Hinduism has a rich and diverse syncretic tradition, and it has no place for for intolerance, no place for any kind of discrimination of class, caste, or gender. Now, in his various writings like Chandalika, Sadhana, Religion of Man, we find all this. And of course, Gitanjali has so many poems where we find all this. So Tagore, being the follower of Brahmo tradition, rejected ritualism and uh, idol worship, and he had a deeper understanding of the divine. Each religion has something important to give to humanity, and he emphasized on creativity, unity, and harmony, advocating for religion of man, that the religion of instead of the religion of the book. Most of the religions, according to Tagore, are religion of the book because every book has a text. But he talked about the religion of man, which is very close to the concept of dharma, but it's very different from the concept of dharma. But then I think before I sort of pass on, uh, Dhamma, which Ambedkar has talked about, is the Buddhist Dhamma, but not Dharma in the Hinduism, which we are talking about. So every human being has patriarchal or, potential for spiritual growth through poems, songs, dance, drama, and various experiences and their expressions in forms of life. So he had a trust in every human being, and every human being has the potential for spiritual growth through poems, songs, and dance and drama and various experiences. Even sort of making the flower arrangements, having alpana, any kind of creative activity is a kind of spiritual activity for Tagore. So Tagore was very much influenced by Sufi thinkers like Kabir, Lalan, Bauls of Bengal, emphasizing the personal realization of spirituality with divine God, and challenged the Hindu traditional understanding of salvation in in man in monkhood. So Amar Mukti Aloy Aloy ei Akashe. So our salvation is here in this world, in this society, in this world, in this experience world, and not in monkhood. So he was against monkhood. Tagore also criticized Hindu narrative nationalist ideals. They were divisive and exclusive. So he always believed in inclusiveness of Hinduism rather than exclusiveness or divisiveness. His novel Gora is, of course, very well known for this. Now, before I end, I just sort of want to bring to your notice that Tagore and Gandhi, they had quite some discussion. They had quite some discussion on the issues about Hinduism, and they have some letters, writings, etc. They are more or less all of them, Tagore, Gandhi, and Ambedkar, they are contemporaries. Gandhi and Ambedkar also had few letters. So, although Gandhi wrote letters to Ambedkar, and very often Ambedkar did not reply. Perhaps he didn't want to contest all those openly. So he did not reply, although it was very clear that Ambedkar did not agree with what Gandhi was saying. Now, but then it's very surprising that Tagore and Ambedkar had no communication at all. And this is very surprising. This is my impression, and if anybody can come across anything, please let me know. As far as I know, there was no communication between Tagore and Ambedkar at all. Now, the question is why? Tagore was such a sensitive mind. He had communication with all over the world. And Ambedkar, sitting right here in India and writing so much emphatically about against Hinduism and all those things, they had no communication at all. Not a single letter is available. The question is why? I guess we need to find out, and there could be many reasons, but then there's nothing written about it as far as I know. But I really stand to learn from all of the people. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Asa Mukherjee. And what a great philosophical and spiritual journey it is. I think the task of philosophy is to wake us up and to ask this kind of contingent question, what would have been? And just joining your, concluding reflection about Tagore and Ambedkar, but one, historical and biographical link is that they may have met, or, because Tagore, or one historical link to think about is whether they have met or not. Tagore came in person to meet Gandhi in Pune. During his first, against the,
No. Tagore and Gandhi met a number of times, but I'm talking about Tagore and Ambedkar.
Yes. So
They never met. Yeah.
I'm just building on that Tagore played a very important role, which involves Ambedkar. That the Pune Pact, when Gandhi decided, and Tagore came in person to meet Gandhi in the jail in Pune. And so it's a very important link. So it is not that Ambedkar would not have been aware of including the historical significance of Tagore in the realization.
Yeah.
Just,
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
just to make a interlinking, reflection. And Tagore also would have been aware of the significance of Ambedkar, especially for the Pune Pact. So thank you, Asadi. And another important link here is that both Professor Meera Chakrabarty and you, and the significance of Dr. Radhakrishnan also, because in his book, and Professor Bag would also attest, that Ambedkar's Annihilation of Caste is a great work, and in which he refers to both John Dewey and Professor Radhakrishnan. And therefore, to think about Hinduism today, as we are talking about it, what might be a possible conversation between Radhakrishnan and Ambedkar? Because Dr. Ambedkar is just referring to Professor Radhakrishnan, but he is not really engaging with his view. But today, as we are engaging with Dr. Ambedkar's critique of Hinduism, because Radhakrishnan is not necessarily an apologist of caste discrimination, because he is propounding a very, very deeply spiritual view of Hindu way of thinking. And the secondly, about experience is that so important that, joining Kancha Ilaya, you are also joining with your own experience. So important. Therefore, the experiential dimension adds an aspect to relate to our ascribed religious reality. But talking phenomenologically, that this phenomenological way is that as we begin with our experience, phenomenology is not limited only to the experiential. And it is pointing to some wider criss-cutting kind of truth condition. So therefore, what would be a new phenomenology like today, which begins with experience, but at the same time, it is open to multiple experience, the multiple experience of critique, creativity, transcendence, and transformation. So with some of these linking thoughts, so now I invite our friends co-present to kindly share your thoughts and reflections, please. So I see many friends who have joined. So you can please.
Ananta, may I ask a question?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Thank you very much for a very, very relevant topic to discuss on the eve of Ambedkar's Jayanti. I have got two questions, very small ones, to all the three speakers. The question is whether we consider Hinduism as a construct made by the colonialists, imperialists, or the Westerns, or our own construct in defense. But the thing is, that the term is going to stay now. We have to deal with this. The question is, do we consider caste system as essential to Hinduism? Because all the objections made by Kanchalaya and Ambedkar before him are related to that. If it is not essential, then the picture of Hinduism will be quite different. The second question is the ideology or the religion, whatever you may call, of Hindutva is also an essential part of Hinduism? Because in the present day, what we are seeing and what is being propagated, that this is the Hinduism for the modern age. Thank you.
Thank you. I request our speakers to kindly take note of this.
Can I
And
answer right now?
if you don't mind, we would assemble a few
Okay.
questions, please. Thank you. So now, Professor Dr. Rudra P. Sahu, please. Dr. Sahu.
Good afternoon to all, sir. My question is, when we are talking the term, we must have to define the term also. When we are talking about Hindu, Hindutization, Hindutva, these are not the synonymous of Hindu, because one is projecting ideology, one is taking into consideration ideology. So how you locate these words are? Second is, if we are talking about Hindu as a religion, is this religion take away to us to emancipated project of the liberal modernist idea, or it has some kind of educative potential? How you link this Hindu as a term that take away to us to an enlightened project by providing some kind of thought that that is a new way of life, so that your ritual and your rights are to be considered in a way of life. So how this Hinduism as a emancipatory project, then why there is a rebellion, violence, and all sorts of exclusive character are the dominant tendency that is prevailing within the Hinduism, and how that should be as a iterative sentence, a iterative form that should be avoided to make Hinduism a global religion appreciated by others.
Thank you. Now, Narinder Kumar, Professor Narinder Kumar. Makaradhwaj, please. Okay, he's taking some time. Professor Gyanluigi, please. Gyanluigi, then Tuliditi, Devaditta, and then Minati, please.
Thank you very much. I hope I am audible. It was very interesting. Unfortunately, I am not an expert in this case. Perhaps I could put a kind of theological question that is independently of the particular condition of the uniformity of religion. I would like to ask perhaps as a kind of subject regarding theology. That is, if God had wanted that all the population of the world has only one religion, why would have God make himself revealed through different revelations? That is, I think that theologically, the question why there is not only one religion in general, independently of the contents of the religion, is that God does not want to have only a revelation and does not want to reveal himself in only one form, but has chosen the way, perhaps, to make different revelations in order to promote a kind of plurality of venerations. And therefore, there is not only one religion in the world, because this opposes, so to speak, the intent of God. But my is rather a question of theology and not a question regarding a particular development in history of the religions. Anyway, I thank you very much. It was all very, very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tuliditi and Devadatta, then Minati, Akhil, then Ashish, please. Kindly get ready. Okay. Akhil Anand. Okay, if not, then Minati, please.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, please.
Yes. Actually, I was listening to some parts of the conversation. I'm really sorry I could not hear the entire talks by all the members. But there was just something like I was just listening to the last speaker, and then there was something which came to my mind when he was talking about Hinduism and how God chose to reveal himself. Means if or if not, and those ontological questions. So I think that if we talk in terms of Hinduism, I think it gets even more interesting in this particular point because first we means the if we trace the origin of the word Hindu, so the word Hindu is actually not a Indian word. If we trace back to like the origin of the word, so it's not actually a Indian word, neither a Hindi or Sanskrit or even Tamil word. It is actually means the word which was actually Indus, which went to the Europe and became Hindu. So, but what my idea from this is that just like the word Hinduism, I think that Hinduism cannot be explained by a word. That's the most like difficult aspect of Hinduism. And when we talk about God in terms of Hinduism, the thing is also within Hinduism, God has revealed himself in various forms. Like if we talk about Abrahamic religion or most other religions in the world, so they have a fixed notion of what is God and what the attributes of God. But when we talk about Hinduism, there is not even a consensus about what is God. There is no one fixed definition of God in Hinduism. So in Hinduism, that's why generally a lot of Indians say that Hinduism is not a religion but a way of life. So I think the better way to describe it is it's not even a way of life. Hinduism is essentially seeking knowledge of God. So anyone who is seeking knowledge of God, according to me, can be called a Hindu because this word Hindu is not actually like restricted to this continent or anything. This is actually a broad philosophical idea which developed in this land. And if we trace the evolution, so Hinduism also resulted in various other religions. For example, there is lot of influence of Hinduism on Sikhism. There is lot of influence of Hinduism on Islam indirectly through Sufism. And then even like Zoroastrianism, from which the like Zoroastrianism, which has a lot of influence over Abrahamic religion, also has a lot of influence from Hinduism. For example, the word Deva and the word Ashura. For example, in Sanskrit, the word Deva is God and Ashura is evil. But in Zoroastrianism, it's just the opposite. The word Ashura is good and Devas is evil, from which devil words comes. So I think if we look at God in terms from the lens of Hinduism, then what we necessarily Hinduism sees is, I think it can be summed up in the best words by Vivekananda in his Chicago speech, which says that when you ask a Hindu who is God, then the best answer is, I don't know, I am seeking. And I think that's what makes Hinduism even more broader. And I think this idea can be used to actually, like what I mean is that Hinduism can actually inculcate all other religions within it. For what I mean to say is, like, I can be a Hindu, I can still go to mosque, I can still go to church, I can seek for God in the temple, in the mosque, or in the church, or in any religious place. In fact, I can search for God anywhere in the universe. So I think this idea can be, in fact, used to unite all the religions rather than to divide it. Thank you.
Thank you, Devadipta. Devadipta, as you can experience, is a very, very bright and devoted mind. He's a scholar of law. He's an advocate in the Supreme Court, and he's also a poet. So now, Minati, please.
Anant bhai, before me, Professor Makardhoj is there. He had switched on the audio to ask something. Let him.
I had requested Dr. Makardhoj, you didn't please respond at that. So please,
Sorry,
Doctor.
Thank you, sir. It's insightful to join and listen the various aspect of the nature of the religion and its relations with Ambedkar and other scholars, Radhakrishnan and others. It's insightful for me that I came to know something such as the relations between the uh, Tagore and Ambedkar's, and that's very insightful. And also, I would like to highlight some points with regards to the religion and in connection with Ambedkar. He extensively actually wrote on the nature of Hinduism and also in the context of the on the origin of the caste system. And when he criticized on the nature of the Hinduism, he actually mostly criticized the Manusmriti or the Veda because he referred it as with the hierarchy, graded inequality based on the birth, and which limits the advancement of the marginalized community. So when he's emphasizing on the eradication of the practice of untouchability rather than untouchability, he was focusing on which is possible through the political rights. So when he's emphasizing on the political rights, he also emphasizing on the cultural reforms. So in this context, I feel that is also important aspect of to link the political rights, cultural reforms, and religion, and in the context of Hinduism and Buddhism. Thank you, sir. That's it. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
Hello, am I audible?
So what
Hello.
I request, 1 minute, Minati, as you ask your question, after Minati, I request our three panelists. So Minati, you please nurture this segment of conversation for the next 10 minutes. Then I would come at the end, please. Thank you, Minati. Please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Anant bhai. Good evening, everyone. Actually, I'm enriched by this very important discussion by three important speakers. As always, Meera ma'am brought all this, the origin of the Hindu word and how it is. So as everyone knows, it is the way of life. And Professor Asa Mukherjee, thank you, ma'am, for sharing your personal story. And as you said, no, education is very important. And apart from education also, no, what type of environment we are being nurtured, that is also that important. Education, of course, empowers you. So that is all, of course. So I have a layman's question, actually, query. See, we know the intricate evolution of Hinduism happened later on. Then what happened in the Varna system? It was described the top was very worthy and the bottom is very unworthy. That is where the heterodox religion like Sikhism, Jainism, Buddhism, and Veerashaivism all emerged, and they were liked for their egalitarian and human, nature, liked by the masses. Even the Bhagavatism, like the Bhakti Marg and other things. But that my query is now, in our social hierarchy, we see not only the Brahmins, every upper caste dominates the lower caste. That is in caste system. It is not about Brahmin and Dalit. If you go in social hierarchy, that does. But apart from Hinduism also, other religions also have the caste system. There are also groupism, there are also upper caste of Christian, upper caste of Muslims, lower castes of Muslims. So all these things are there. So is when we are discussing why I am a Hindu, why I am not a Hindu, that I'm just wondering, is it necessary to take any religion as a whole, along with its advantage, disadvantage, that good things and bad things? So when we are discussing only about Hindu, what we should discuss about other religions? How it should be. I'm a little bit confused about my question. Like we see, I feel that the casteism not only in Hinduism, the patriarchal society, the casteism, these are all there in our society, not in any religion. That presents in every religion actually. So this was my query and my sharing. Thank you. So now anybody else wants to ask the question? So once more we can ask. Anybody wants to ask the question? Mr. Ashish Gupta? Okay, it is taking some time. Mr. Akhil Anand? If no one has a question, I can request the speakers, the panel speakers to answer. First, Professor
Hello.
Sarthik Bhatt. Yeah, please. Please continue.
Hello. Ma'am, can I ask a question?
Yeah, you can.
Actually, I was very curious to know about when does this system of surnames in Hinduism, like we are using nowadays, different kind of caste surnames. So when did this culture started in Hinduism, especially?
Thank you. Now I request Professor Sarthik Bhatt to answer the questions. Then Professor Meera Chakrabarti, then Professor Asha Mukherjee. And these are.
Thank you. I received some questions which are relevant to what I said in my presentation about the book by Kanchaila. Actually, one question which was asked by Dr. Alok Tandon. Is caste essential part of Hinduism? The book which I presented actually not engage on this issue whether caste is essential part of Hinduism or not. After going through the entire book, it seems that Professor Kanchaila has assumed, it appears, he has assumed that caste is an integral part of Hinduism. So therefore, he has not dealt with or discussed in detail whether caste is essential or not. He assumed that caste is inevitable or integral part of Hinduism. That's why he had come up with very scathing attack, criticism against Hinduism, criticism against Hindu social order. So this is one thing. Some question highlighted or talked about, Hinduism is also a secular religion, or some kind of patriarchy, casteism that exists in other religion also. So I think such questions, of course, um, uh, may be relevant when it comes to Kanchaila and the book he has written, Why I Am Not a Hindu. Actually, Kanchaila in his introduction, in the preface itself, has made it very clear that this book is not only meant for the Dalit Bahujan scholar or Dalit Bahujan people. It basically wants, Kanchaila basically wants the educated uh, upper caste intellectual, the scholar, to read the book that he has written. So he wants that the book he has written, which is a critique of Hindutva philosophy, the, their culture and political economy. For him the audience should come from the educated upper caste intellectual, because he thinks that they need more sensitization. They they need they need to know what Bahujan scholars want to say about it. So he says categorically that for thousands years and so upper caste people have taught us the Hindu orthodoxy. Now it is time for them to know what the Dalit Bahujan scholar actually think of Hinduism and caste system in India. So so once you go through this book, I'm not supporting or defending the book, the content of the book, the title of the book, but it is sure that we need to, especially who disagree with the question of caste and many things, many ills associated with Hinduism, they must go through this book, a small book written by Kanchaila. So after going through this book, perhaps the question that you are asking, that patriarchy is common in other religion also. The question that you are asking, that Hinduism is so secular, so why to criticize Hinduism? No, Kanchaila has examined it from its personal narrative, from its personal experience, and he established the fact from his experience that this religion, what we call Hinduism or caste system, Hinduism is not secular, definitely not secular for Panchayila. It says, it is there in the book that it is basically communal. It is basically communal, so it is not secular. Suppose Hindu people visiting mosques, upper caste people visiting mosques, upper caste people visiting church, and same people they are not visiting the god and goddess is believed by Dalit Bahujan people. So should we call them secular? So in our own locality, you are maintaining a distance to this caste. You are not concerned about the culture they believe in, the god and goddess they believe in, but you are free, more comfortable to visit the church, mosques of other religion. So that this I find it dichotomy, and this thing can be very much clear reading this book written by Kanchaila, patriarchy, casteism. So it is there in other religion, but he's saying that patriarchy not there. Patriarchy is not there among the Dalit Bahujan. Dalit Bahujan community, so far as women's status is concerned, they believe in equality. They believe in uh, they believe in sharing. There is respect for the women. So in that sense, you can know that he is trying to expose the bad things that is prevailing in Hinduism. So this is a book, I think, that will sensitize everyone. That will sensitize everyone, and it has received great deal of attention, and it has many people, even they are educated, they don't know many things about their own behavior, own habit, own belief system, own worldview. Okay, so this book will definitely sensitize people who do not, buy the critique of Hinduism, do not believe or agree to the argument made by the critique of Hinduism. So this is what I think. This is not my personal thing, but this is a book which doesn't say that Hinduism is a secular religion. This is a book which exposes the kind of inequality, patriarchy, and undemocratic things inherent in Hinduism. This is what Kanchaila has tried to do in his book. So this is what I wanted to add. Thank you so much.
Next,
Yes,
I request
please.
Professor Meera Chakravarti to keep her views. Ma'am, please, Meera, ma'am, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Minati. The question of to Professor Sathik, I would rather say that my experience in women's movement, Dalit women have always complained that Dalit men have not treated them equally. So I can't really support what you have been saying. And in past, we have had conversations with Kancha Ilaya, and I don't think he's absolutely saying that there is absolute equality. Now, that apart, one question, one mention that you have, Ambedkar has used as Ananta says, Dhamma and Dharma. These two are different. They are not. But if I think Ananta comes, then I can tell him. Now, Mr. Tandon has asked a question. I, in turn, pose a question to him, asking whether is class necessary? If caste is not necessary, caste system is not necessary, you are asking, is class system necessary? Now the problem is that when you institutionalize something, and if you have a construct through which you want to maintain a hierarchy, maintain a system of hierarchy, then it assumes, or a part of some people, or the chunk of the people will see that becomes necessary. I don't think any person with any common sense would say that these are necessary. It is not. But I'm talking that as caste is hierarchical, so also class is hierarchical, and these are constructs to maintain the hegemony. And therefore, when in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Krishna tries to explain guna karma vibhagasha. Whatever guna, whatever skill you have, and whatever the inclination that you have, you can choose this thing. He doesn't say these are jati. No, that is why I raised the question of that the terms are interpreted left and right, but whimsically, and that creates such a confusion, and those confusions are taken for granted and carried away. So where is the mention of jati? Where is the mention of the term? Even in the term dharma has such a I think you will get 20-25 meanings if you go to the explore the term dharma. Tell me, when there is an emblem in the Supreme Court which says dharmo rakshati, yato dharma tata jaya, is Supreme Court saying that wherever there is religion, it should win? Not at all. It's funny. In Bangalore High Court, in Karnataka High Court, the emblem is dharmo rakshati rakshita. The meaning of dharma there is righteousness, justice. As in the Supreme Court, it is dharma. It is yato dharma tato jaya. It is justice, and dhamma and dharma is telling about the justice. Dharana dharma. I have been repeatedly saying this, that these are the confusions that they make. Now, in one, you take dharma as something as religion, and in the other, you try to report dharma as, in a different way. So I think these are, we will have to, as I mentioned in my paper earlier in the thing, we will have to define our terms. Somebody also contributed to that the definition has to be the thing. So when a religion or whatever is thought process is institutionalized, these are the weaknesses, or these are the drawbacks, these are the flaws that come out. I'm sorry, I don't think I have time. Minati, is that enough?
Yes, ma'am. You can just another 2-3 minutes if you want to continue. You can.
Okay. So Therefore, these Mr. Narendra Kumar also asked about the caste surnames. Yeah, the caste surnames. Now, like for example, I can talk about this Bengalis to an extent where you say Mukherjee, Mukhopadhyay, or Chattopadhyay. You know, at a feudal system, the lands were given to the like Chakravarti. I am by name Chakravarti doesn't mean I am really Chakravarti in the sense that Chakravarti kings were there. You know, it's that's why I just make a fun. I say Nama Matrena. It's only by name I am Chakravarti and not by wealth. So these were the titles given to them. You don't have a kind of a surname in this in southern part of India. You don't have they will tell you what are the initials. So I used to get confused. What is the initial? Then you will say like as you say uh, uh, um, SP Radhakrishnan. If you say Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, then you say that Sarvepalli is his grammar, is the name of the village, and then his father's name, and then his name. So therefore, there is no surname in in that sense where so surname is socio-culturally attached to some of the other things. The king would donate something and call you this by name. So you want to say that it is by if you go to Upanishads, they are known. Satyakama Jabala is known by his mother's name. You know, Jabala is the mother, and he's known as Jabali. So in modern age, in the Bollywood, in the Hindi cinema, you have this Sanjay Leela Bhansali. So Leela is his mother's name, and he's categorically said that I have taken my mother's name intentionally. So these are various ways of the or perspectives that you can see. Thank you, Minati.
Yeah, to add to your speech, ma'am, actually some sand artist also is there. His name is something Bharati. He has also taken his mother's name. So that is a heartening change to see. Thank you, ma'am. So next I invite Professor Asa Mukherjee to keep her views. Asa, ma'am, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Minoti. Yeah, we have interesting questions, number of questions, and thank you each of you for raising these interesting questions. Let me start with Alokji. Alokji has asked two questions. One is whether the caste system is essential to Hinduism. Professor Meera Chakraborty has already tried to answer. But I would say that it's interesting that, I mean, of course, I'll come to Minoti's question also later, because Miradi has talked about the hierarchy. And I mean, based on some kind of gunas and inclination that we have this system, caste system. And
I have said that.
Sorry?
Guna karma, I have said.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I said. Miradi.
No, Minoti, you said Minoti.
No, Miradi has said.
Acha, Miradi, okay.
Miradi has said, yeah,
Okay,
Miradi has
sorry.
said. Minoti and Miradi, they are very close sound-wise. Sound-wise. Yeah, so guna and inclination, they're based on this thing. In fact, interestingly, I was reading some days back, I think about a few months back, I was reading Gandhi. And Gandhi brings a very interesting discussion on the difference between Varna and caste. And he vehemently argues that the caste system is a later kind of addition, which has all sorts of, ills included, sort of involved in it. But Varna system he justifies. And he justifies that Hinduism is the one which introduces this Varna system, which is based on gunas and inclination, as you have already said. And therefore, all human beings, I mean, like a cobbler, for example, born somebody as a cobbler in a family would know the work of cobbler the best from his childhood. And therefore, if he works as a cobbler, then that would be the best thing for the society, for the social system. But it does not mean that he has no choice to become something else. Now, this is exactly what Gandhi has argued very systematically. And actually, I was working, and if anybody is interested, I can give the references. How Gandhi in his various writings have talked about this Varna system, and he defended Varna system very strongly. And this, he says, is the best thing for bringing the harmony in the whole society, in the whole world. So I guess that's a very, interesting idea, taking it from Hinduism, but then it has such an universal aspect that can be applied to the whole world, and perhaps that can bring some kind of harmony. Now, having said that, coming to the second question, is Hinduism an essentially is Hindutva is an essential part of Hinduism? I would say no, but I was see again the whole problem lies how you define Hindutva. So I will not go into that. But for me, definitely Hindutva is not an essential part of Hinduism. Now, Makarat Dhwaj has talked about Ambedkar's objection towards Manusmriti and Ved. Thank you for bringing this to the discussion. No doubt Ambedkar was completely against the Manusmriti and Vedas, the way they have been sort of presented and discussed within Hinduism. And of course, the political rights for him and the cultural reform was very important for Ambedkar, and that's why he's talking about this. So justice and democratic values were very important for Ambedkar, and that's exactly because after all, let's not forget that he was a student of John Dewey. So we cannot forget, this. Now, the theological question, I guess that's not what we were discussing. Sehgal professor has asked that the universality of religion. When we were talking about universality of religion, we were not talking in the theological terms. And in theology, if God wanted all the population to be of one religion instead of many religions, I guess these are all hypothetical questions. And as a theologian, perhaps theology can be interested in this, but at least I'm not interested. So what God wanted and what God did not want, I guess that it all depends on the concept of God, how you look at it. So I would at least not go into this dimension. So coming to Minoti's question, that again, as I said, that the social harmony will remain, no doubt about it, as we are saying, that the power politics plays a very important role in any society, whatsoever it is. Somebody has pointed out that even Elia's book, when he's talking about, Miradi has also said that within the low caste and tribals, they also have this hierarchy. So hierarchy is a kind of human nature, I would say. And if it's a human nature, the social hierarchy will remain, whatever it is. And the power politics will also remain. Because anybody who is powerful will try to overpower the one who is powerless or has less power. So this is a kind of human being, don't forget, is also an animal. And animality always has this, the overpowering relationship on the lower power and overpower. So I guess that part remains always. So therefore, to imagine a society where there will be no hierarchy or there will be, of course, we can look for harmony, the harmony within the society, but there cannot be total equality. Looking for equality, that men and women are equal, rich and poor is equal. No way. Even our 5 fingers are not equal. 2 hands are not equal. 2 eyes are not equal. So let's not think about all that. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Asha Mukherjee. Now I invite Ananta Bhai to have the concluding thoughts. Ananta Bhai, please.
Thank you. So it is a ongoing journey and many questions are with us to walk and meditate further together. And I think this symposium also invites us to take it further. So I am thinking of editing or co-editing a book on this, and we can really cultivate it. Very quickly, as Professor Meera Chakrabarti clarified that there is a lot of ecological affinity between dharma and dhamma. And that's also what I meant, that with the differential trajectories, both of them point to right conduct, right thinking. And then Professor Asa Mukherjee's reference to Gandhi, that Gandhi's reflection on Varna was at an early stage of his life, but Gandhi himself also, especially after the Pune Pact and after, from 1935, after meeting with Gora from Andhra Pradesh. So when Gora came to live with Gandhi in Sevagram, Gandhi repudiated his earlier view of Varna, and he emphasized that how intercaste marriage is integral, for contemporary India. Though this wider issue of Varna and is very significant today, but Gandhi also changed his position, which needs to be taken into. But what Professor Mukherjee is pointing to, that even in his early engagement, Gandhi was very much emphatic about choice, which we need to explore further. Because somehow that even some aspects of Gandhi's writing, is not totally very clear about this dimension of choice. And therefore we need to, learn it further. So it has been a very enriching conversation. Let us take it forward, and our participants, our panelists, and our other friends, let us think of carrying it forward into a writing and and but one quick thought about theology is that, of course, there is a very deep relationship between religion, philosophy, and theology. In the Holy Quran, it is also mentioned that God has created so many countries, so many, people, so that you can, enjoy in the diversity. I'm just paraphrasing this very important line in the Holy Quran. It is written there. And in our Upanishads also, I think in Taittiriya Upanishad, there is a line called Bahusyayam Prajaya Iti. When the divine is seeking to be me, so therefore, these points to how the divine creator is already, the very creation is already animated with the sense of the plural. The divine wants to be many. So okay. So now with this, Minati, please. Yes.
Thank you, Ananta Bhai. It was indeed a pleasure to be here and listen to all these intellectual discussions about this topic. So I, Minati Pradhan, on behalf of Sadhyasa Chakra and the Vishwaneedam Center for Asian Blossoming, would like to thank our chief panelist, Professor Sarthik Bag, Professor Meera Chakrabarti, and Professor Asha Mukherjee for enlightening us, the different dimension of today's topic. Thank you all so much. I also would like to thank Professor Alak Tondon, Professor Gyan Luigi, Professor Makar Dhoj, Professor Rudra Sahu, and Professor Narendra, and Mr. Devadipta Das for joining us in our conversation and giving their inputs and questions and queries. Thank you all so much. I also would like to thank our Facebook platform listeners and YouTube viewers. Please pardon me if I've forgotten anybody's name, but I really thank all of you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Minati.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
See you sometime.